Hashtag Speakeasy Podcast. Can I tell you, this has been a heck of a journey. Entrepreneurship has been one heck of a journey. Parenting has been one heck of a journey. And every part of the journey comes with its own woes. It comes with its own situations, its own things that kind of make you cringe at moments. But I think one of the most valuable things in entrepreneurship is that we get to grow through it, not just go through it. And I think that's one of the reasons why this episode is going to be a valuable one to many of you, whether you're in the beginning stages of your business or you're rebranding your business, or you may have been in business for 10, 20, 40, 50 years. There's always going to be some things that come and kind of rattle your cage. And we're going to discuss some of those things today with my guest, Brenda. Hello, Brenda.
Hello, Altavis. Thank you so much for having me on the Speakeasy podcast.
I appreciate you being here. This is going to be an interesting conversation because I know me personally, man, when it comes to the workplace, I know, especially when I made that transition from being an employee to an entrepreneur, there were things as an employee that I was like, oh my goodness, and this is just so irritating. And if I'm an entrepreneur, I'll never have to deal with this. And then you get to the entrepreneur side and it's like, what the heck, man? So before we get into this candid conversation, Brenda, let the studio audience know a little bit about you.
Sure. So when I was 16, I walked out of my family home with holes in my moccasins. I left my dad a letter that, in all my arrogance of the young, that I would make $1 million by the time I was 30. And then I and my big announcements moved into a condemned building. So I consider that experience and really every other challenge that has happened in my life to be a gift of immense proportions. And I have to say that I just love the work you're doing to help people come to the side of themselves that looks at life that way, that we can turn absolutely everything into something pretty good for us if we work a little at it. So I spent some of my formative years hiding in a cupboard, and that really sent me out into the world so super stressed that I had to go looking for ways to dissolve it. So that's basically what I did. I taught conscious conflict resolution in 6 countries as a career, and I wrote 5 onto my 6th book, and they're all about what I call instant evolution out of stress, because I love to make this startling statement that stress is optional. It's not in the first, when it first hits, it hits, it's there. But if we can learn how to redirect our attention towards dissolving stress really quickly so we can get back to our good nature, then that just leaves us clear, and actually it leaves us natural, like joyful and playful and curious. And that's how I think we want to be in the world. I know that's how I want to be in the world.
I know for definite that's how I love to be in the world. And listen, my children will tell you I am the one that they look and go, are you really supposed to do that as a parent? Yeah, that's me. We've watched cartoons together and all types of stuff, and still do to this point. But it's interesting because we cannot outrun stress.
Yeah.
Like we wish that we could kind of outrun it, we could kind of hide, and it just kind of we all have that cartoon mentality where we're like, we just wish that if we just crouch down, it would just bypass us and everything would be okay. But since we can't outrun stress, what can we do when we see stress coming up in our lives?
Well, a couple of things I noticed: that challenges never stop. And I really set out into the world to see, could we dissolve stress really quickly? That's basically what I spent my life studying for the last 20 years. And what I came up with at the end of that, not at the beginning, was that everything we do is towards well-being. You call a friend, hoping the exchange will cause well-being. We go to work, hoping that what we get from that will cause us well-being. On holidays, we buy new things. The reward, we hope, is well-being. And what gets in the way, I found, was stress. So I was so curious, what would be obscuring our good nature and letting this stress take us over, sometimes for days, weeks, months, or even years, where we could periodically come back into a stressor that happened so many years ago. So to that end, I in my book have about 100 strategies to dissolve stress for anyone. And in the workplace, I'm very interested in sharing that because I call them heart-centered strategies in the workplace, because there's so many easy ways to make our workplace pleasant, and so much, there are a large percentage of population say they're just not happy. They don't find well-being in the workplace, and they actually feel like they have meaningless jobs. But we can change that for ourselves if we can't change the job, you know. So one of the first things I want to share really is this. As an entrepreneur, if you show just a tiny, tiny little bit of gratitude to your employees, and your suppliers and your clients, you can improve all their production by 50%. And the reason I say that is because there's a Harvard Health Publishing, they cited research from, I think it's Wharton School, and they had two groups doing fundraising, and one group did it the way they always did, and the other group, they got a pep talk from the director who told the fundraisers something really simple. She said, before they made the calls, "I'm so grateful for your efforts." And listen to this. That group made 50% more fundraising calls. So that tells us something really simple and genuine, that these people are helping us. So it makes sense to show them gratitude with an unexpected consequence that they'll be up to 50% more productive. So that's just a win-win for everybody. And, you know, there's a lot more reasons to switch from that idea of being grumpy and telling your employees just to do that, to being grateful for whatever they do. And so to run over some of those, positive psychology offers studies that support amazing things happen just from saying a little bit of gratitude every day, a few times a day. Now, this is hard to believe, but if we do it, not only do we increase people's productivity for ourselves when we have gratitude, and when our employees have gratitude, they actually grow brain cells in the temporal gyrus of their brain. This is amazing to me. We know for sure that it lessens anxiety and stress and depression. In fact, this group, Psychology Today, says that one of the things they've noticed in their studies is gratitude is almost as good as a medication, as it's kind of like a natural antidepressant. Another thing that just amazes me. And then when you think about the other things that they've proven, it does, scientifically proven, it releases dopamine and serotonin, you know, those feel-good hormones. But even better, it releases toxic emotions just by feeling some gratitude and expressing it to someone. So there's so many good reasons to take a minute and just not just say thank you, but feel it. There's a big difference. When you feel it, it's genuine.
Ooh, and
So
you have
to
to be
thank you,
deliberate about that too.
very much so. Absolutely. That makes all the difference. And, you know, I often ask people, well, if you could choose, would you be grumpy or grateful towards your employees? It's really simple, because they're doing something really wonderful for us, but we've taken the kind of the I'm the bossy one attitude in many cases, which has so far never worked. Not as a parent, not as a employer. So the next one is that, you know how people want to support people they feel connected to. If you and I feel connected, we want to support each other. So the one way to do that with your employees is just find one little thing in them to appreciate and interact with them on that regularly. I just want to share with you something my husband does. So if I act out, he just starts thinking. He pays me no attention whatsoever. And then he starts thinking about, he starts thinking about all the reasons he loves me. So this is kind of he stays connected to me. He's not drawn into my drama or my nonsense. And then I feel like I want to support him. He feels like he wants to support me. What a simple way to do a relationship change with your employees. Just think of one thing you like about them, or take a genuine interest in something that's really important in their life. And that can just like take 30 seconds. Like, what did you see at the park when you went to, did you get your reno done? Is your wife feeling better? Just simple, connecting with each other like the human beings we really are, that brings out our humanitarianism. Really simple.
That's important because there are so many times where we think everything needs to be automated, everything needs to be AI, everything needs to be this, and this. But I often go back to Gary Vee, and you like him or love him. I know some of y'all don't necessarily like him, but one of the things that really stood out for me was he was talking about how there was a customer that had ordered like a case of wine, and it was Christmas, and they ordered it for Christmas Eve, and it hadn't arrived. And so, they're like, oh, well, it's the you could have said, oh, it's this, it's that, it's the weather, it's the delivery service, so many different things. But he said he actually got into his vehicle and he drove to their home with this case of wine. And he talks about little things that he does in his business similar to that, but where other people would say, well, why would you do that? It's only one case of wine. Well, no, it's only one case of wine to us, but it was something memorable for them. It was because they wanted to be able to celebrate with their family. Like, it was something so much bigger for them. And it means taking off the glasses that we have when we see the world around us and going ahead and putting on a clearer pair of glasses so we can see things from other people's perspective. So, we think that it's really hard. Oh, I can't be able to be there for every single person. No, you can't, but you can be there for someone.
Yeah, that's so true. Kind of reminds me of a quote. I think it was Rashid Ogunleru, if I'm pronouncing his name properly, but it was always let your talent do the talking, never your tantrums. And I was just thinking while you were telling that story that oftentimes people turn towards a tantrum about things instead of the generosity and humanity that feels so much better for them. Like, so your example is a good one, and it's just leads me into this idea that we can do something wonderful and kind instead of getting all upset and having our own temper tantrum while I have to drive this case of wine, but I had my other plans and now I'm good and crabby. But what I like is if people would start thinking about, I maybe should tame my tantrum. Like, I'd like a sign in all offices, businesses, homes around the world. No dumping allowed. Tame your tantrum. Abuse will not be tolerated, like we see in a lot of our buildings here. So, like, if you get in your mind's eye a picture of someone who's frequently angry, you notice they're coming from a position of mental superiority when they're really coming from a position of mental inferiority. And if you let your anger do the talking at any time, that you'll never achieve what you really want, which is well-being and what it brings. So there's a couple ways we like to detonate. Before anger detonates, we like to dissolve it. And so one of the things I really love is, it's from a Canadian teacher. His name's John DeRuiter, and he offers a really simple solution for dissolving anger. So if you're an entrepreneur, put this note in your pocket. It says, I don't need my raging story anymore. If you have to do something for one person, like deliver that box of wine, and it upsets you to the point where you are having a little inner or outer temper tantrum, pull out this note that says, I don't need my raging story, or I don't need my angry story anymore. Sometimes that's enough just to dissolve the anger, because it really doesn't deliver what it promises, or what we think it promises anyway.
Oh,
So
that was so good. Anger
it
does
is,
not deliver what we thought it would.
yeah, it hasn't yet. I've been watching. I've been looking for years, Altavis. It's not there.
Not
It's
there.
never delivers what it promises. Like, I'll get my way. No, no, it never does. Another thing I really love in the workplace is the idea that you know how many mistakes we make in a day? How many? I know I still make a lot of mistakes every single day. And I think I shared this with you last time we spoke, but I really want to share it again because it has such big impact. And it was, I'll tell it with a really brief story. So one day I was driving my dad's too big truck in his too small corral, and I put a dent in it. And then when I showed him and apologized, he held his arms wide open for me to walk into for a hug. And he said, "It doesn't matter a particle." And on that day, I learned how to give myself and others grace instead of grief. In other words, be kind instead of mean when a mistake was made. And there's immense magic in that message. You matter more than the mistake. So if your colleague or your employee makes a mistake, just say and feel the truth of the statement that that person, you matter more than the mistake. And this can dissolve and relieve you all the stress around a mistake. You know, because the mistake's already done. And then part two of that, of course, is we'll actually feel better if we make our mistakes right than if we deny them or make excuses for them. It works wonders when people use this really simple strategy. You matter more than the mistake. And then you teach your employees that part two is make it right. That will also feel better. So they're really simple little things that that really can change your workplace and change how you feel in your workplace. You know, I was mentioning that sign, abuse will not be tolerated. That I see that sign here. Do you see it where you're from, in hospitals or
I
offices?
have seen it maybe once or twice. I have
Okay.
seen
We have it, I see it in all our health services. In any building that's to do with health services, it's in that. The sign is up. And I just think it's a great thing to have up to remind people, well, you know, I don't really have the right to just abuse anybody, even with words or, of course, physically. So another strategy I love to share with people is I call it bully-proof yourself. And because bullying is so big in the workplace, is number one, if you have a bully, first of all, don't believe them, because they say, frankly, they say really stupid things like, you should never have been born. Why is that stupid? Are bullies in charge of who should be born? But yet you'll believe it. Oftentimes we'll go, there must be something wrong with me. So first thing is never believe them, not ever. Whatever they say, you completely disregard it. They're not the boss of you, to put it bluntly. And and also, you know how to get strong and deal with a bully. Every day, at least one time, out of sight of every single person, you take out or imagine a Superman or Superwoman cape, a stance, hands on hips, shoulders back, head held high, and notice how that actually connects you with your inner strength. You do have inner strength, but we tend to believe bullies, and that obscures our inner strength. You know, of course, you have to record and report every bullying event. And then the last thing about bullying that I'll say for today is you also have to do a little bit of inner work to figure out, how come I'm the target? Why do I have a target on my back? So one of the questions I began asking myself early on many years ago was, if I noticed I was being bullied, was, what am I giving them that I shouldn't? And answers would come to me like, well, I'm giving them power or attention. Like, for example, I was giving power, letting them make the decisions, me being submissive, thinking that's going to keep me from getting hurt. Well, that doesn't work. But that was what was in my unconscious mind. So this simple question, what am I giving them that I shouldn't be giving them? Power, attention, whatever it is for you that comes up. And then you get a feeling come up with that. And because that's also not part of your nature to hide your strength, it helps to begin to dissolve that, and it takes that target off of your back. but I have a whole book on that because I think it's so important and such a big issue.
So many
So,
nuggets. Oh my goodness. Oh, continue. Go ahead.
well, I hope your listeners are able to implement at least a couple of those and notice for themselves the changes in their own life and in the lives of the people around them.
Most definitely. I think that's the most valuable thing is that we're able to go ahead and not only make the changes, but see the progress, see the maturity that happens afterwards and things like that. And even how people react and interact with you, they'll see it and understand it. And it's not for everyone to give you a pat on the back for, but it's for you to give yourself a pat on the back, knowing that you've done that inner work. And so, Speakeasy Podcast listeners, this has been such a valuable episode. Even if you're still at the job, if you're starting the business, if you are the one that has employees under you, there are so many nuggets in this episode. So definitely hit the pause button, go back, rewind, write down some notes. There were some things that you need to write down. You might have to put it on the mirror, put it on the laptop, but understand that stress does not have to be the thing that keeps you from moving forward. With that being said, Brenda, let them know where they can get your books and also how they can connect with you.
They can get the books or connect with me at thekidcode.ca.
Great. Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Speakeasy Podcast listeners, you know that every episode is about you elevating in life and in business. And this is definitely one of those episodes that can take you to a couple new heights in life and in business. With that being said, let me know how this episode resonated with you by either messaging me at Altavis Unmuted on Instagram or leaving a review. Let us know how it resonated with you and what else you may be interested in hearing about. With that being said, I appreciate each and every one of you. And until next time, don't forget to press it out. See ya.